Zectora stood before the young cadets in the military academy on Corvus Prime. His scarred face showed the marks of 15 cycles of nightmares. The old veteran's 3 eyes moved slowly across the eager faces of the students. They wanted to hear war stories. They wanted tales of glory and victory. What they would get instead was the truth about humanity. "You think you know about war," Zectora said in his rough voice. "You have read the reports. You have studied the battles. But you have never faced humans in combat. I have. I survived the Soul campaign. Most of my comrades did not." The cadets leaned forward in their seats. The Soul campaign was legendary among the Corvani military. It was the Empire's greatest failure. The first time in 300 years that Corvani forces had been forced to retreat from a target world. I was a tactical analyst aboard the command ship. When we first approached the human home system, Zectora continued, "I believed what our intelligence told us. Humans were weak. They lived short lives. They had barely begun to explore space. Their technology was primitive. Their world would fall in days, just like all the others." One of the cadets raised his hand. "Sir, what made the humans different from other species we conquered?" Zectora's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a bitter laugh. "Everything. But we did not know that at first. Our scouts reported that humans were fragile bipeds. They could not breathe many atmospheres. They needed constant temperature control. They seemed to fight among themselves constantly. We thought they would surrender as soon as they saw our ships." The veteran walked to the wall display and activated a hologram of the Sol system. The third planet, Earth, glowed blue and green. In the center of the projection, Fleet Admiral Voxstar assigned only a modest force to the conquest. 12 battle cruisers, 30 destroyers, and support vessels. For most worlds, this would have been excessive. For Earth, it should have been more than enough. The humans had no shields like ours. Their weapons were chemical explosives and primitive energy beams. Their fastest ships took months to travel between planets. Zectora touched the display, and red dots appeared around the outer planets of the system. We approached from the edge of their system. Our plan was simple. Destroy their outer colonies first. Show them our power. Then demand their surrender before we reach their home world. The hologram showed the movement of Corvani ships through the system. They moved toward Mars, Jupiter's moons, and the asteroid belt where humans had mining operations. "I remember the silence," Zectora said softly. "As we approached their outer settlements, we heard nothing. No communications, no pleas for mercy, no surrender offers. The human colonies seemed abandoned. We thought they had fled in terror." Another cadet spoke up. "But they had not fled, had they, sir?" "No," Zectora replied. "They had not fled. They had prepared. But we did not understand this yet. We thought human silence meant human weakness. We were wrong about everything." The veteran manipulated the display to show the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Thousands of small rocks tumbled through space, along with human mining stations and equipment. Captain Jake Morrison commanded a small human patrol vessel in the asteroid belt. When our forward destroyers detected his ship, it appeared to be damaged. Morrison was broadcasting what our translators said were distress signals. His vessel was limping away from us, moving slowly through the asteroids. Zectora paused, his expression growing darker. Fleet Admiral Voxstar ordered 12 destroyers to pursue Morrison's ship. It seemed like an easy kill. One damaged human vessel against 12 of our finest warships. Morrison was leading them deeper into the asteroid field, but we thought he was simply trying to escape. The hologram showed the Corvani destroyers following the human ship deeper into the belt of tumbling rocks. The cadets watched as the pursuit continued for hours. Morrison's ship was broadcasting constantly. Zectora continued. "Our communications specialists said he was calling for help, begging for rescue. We thought he was panicking. We were wrong. He was coordinating." One of the cadets looked confused. "Coordinating what, sir?" "An ambush," Zectora said simply. 4 months before our arrival, human engineers had been working in the asteroid belt. They had hollowed out asteroids and filled them with explosives. They had hidden weapons platforms inside mining equipment. They had turned the entire belt into a trap. The veteran's voice grew quieter. Morrison was not fleeing. He was herding us, like a farmer herding livestock to slaughter. He knew exactly where every hidden weapon was located. He knew exactly which asteroids would explode when triggered. He was leading our destroyers into a killing field. The hologram showed what happened next. As the Corvani ships pursued Morrison deeper into the belt, asteroids began to explode around them. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from camouflage positions. The human ship that had seemed so damaged suddenly came alive with weapons fire. In 30 minutes, we lost 8 destroyers, Zektora said. 8 of our finest warships, destroyed by a single human patrol vessel, and asteroids filled with explosives. The 4 surviving destroyers tried to retreat, but Morrison's ship pursued them. It hunted them through the asteroid field like a predator. The cadets stared at the hologram in shock. They had never heard of a single small ship defeating 12 larger vessels. But how did one human ship destroy so many of our destroyers? Asked a cadet. Zektora turned to face the student, because Captain Morrison was not fighting alone. He was fighting with the entire asteroid belt. The humans had spent months preparing that battlefield. Every rock, every piece of equipment, every mine had been positioned for maximum effect. Morrison did not need to outfight our ships. He needed only to lead them to their deaths. The veteran deactivated the hologram and returned to the center of the room. This was our first lesson about human warfare. They do not fight fair. They do not fight with honor. They fight to win. They prepare for battles that might never come. They turn every environment into a weapon. He looked directly at each cadet. But the asteroid belt was only the beginning. We still believed we could conquer them. We still thought they were just clever primitives who had gotten lucky. We were about to learn how wrong we were. Zekthara walked to the window and looked out at the peaceful Corvani city below. After the asteroid belt disaster, Fleet Admiral Voxstar was angry. He ordered the surviving ships to regroup and plan a new attack. He wanted to show the humans that one small victory meant nothing. He was determined to make them pay for embarrassing the Empire. The veteran turned back to the cadets. Intelligence reports from the asteroid belt battle were disturbing. The humans had not used their most advanced technology. They had destroyed 8 destroyers with mining explosives and hidden weapons platforms. If this was what they could do with simple tools, what could they do with real military equipment? One of the cadets asked. Did the fleet retreat after the asteroid belt? No, Zektoroi said firmly. We advanced. We had lost ships, but we still had overwhelming superiority. Or so we thought. The humans had shown us one trick. Surely they could not repeat such success. We decided to attack Mars, their red planet. It seemed lightly defended, an easy target to restore our confidence. The veteran's expression grew grim. Mars was where we learned that the asteroid belt had not been a trick. It had been a warning. The humans were showing us what they could do. They were giving us a chance to leave their system peacefully. We did not take that chance. Zektorah returned to his position at the front of the room. Tomorrow, I will tell you about Mars, about Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson and her underground warriors, about how humans fight when they cannot retreat, about how they turn disadvantages into advantages, about why our invasion force learned to fear the sound of human laughter echoing through cave systems. The cadets sat in stunned silence. They had expected stories of Corvani glory. Instead, they were hearing about human cunning and determination. They were learning that the Empire's greatest enemy was not the one they had been taught to expect. Class dismissed, Zekthora said. Think about what you have heard today. Think about facing an enemy who fights with their entire environment. Think about how you would defeat an opponent who has been preparing for your arrival for months or years. Think about whether you would have the courage to pursue such an enemy to their homeworld. As the cadets filed out of the room, Zekthara remained at the window. In the distance, Corvani's ships moved through the sky, proud and powerful. But the veteran knew what those ships would face if they ever encountered human forces. He had seen the future of warfare in the Sol system. It was not a future that favored the Corvani Empire. The next day, Zektora stood before his cadets again. Their faces showed a mixture of curiosity and concern after hearing about the asteroid belt disaster. The veteran's 3 eyes scanned the room before he began to speak. Today I will tell you about Mars, Zektora said quietly. the red planet where we learned that human courage has no limits, where we discovered that humans fight differently than any species in the galaxy. He activated the wall display, showing Mars in detail. The planet's red surface was covered with domed cities and mining operations. Underground tunnels connected the settlements like a vast network. After losing 8 destroyers in the asteroid belt, Fleet Admiral Voxstar was determined to show human weakness to the Empire. Mars seemed like the perfect target. The planet had only civilian colonies, numbered major military bases, no orbital defenses. We expected easy victory. Zekthara manipulated the display to show Corvani landing craft approaching Mars. Our intelligence was correct about the military bases. There were none, but our intelligence was wrong about everything else. We thought Mars would be defended by frightened colonists with mining tools. Instead, we found Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson. One of the cadets raised his hand. Sir, was Patterson a regular human soldier? Patterson was an engineer, Zekthara replied. She had spent 10 years on Mars building mining tunnels and cave systems. She knew every passage, every chamber, every weak point in the planet's crust. When the war began, she became the commander of Mars Defense Forces. The veteran's voice grew respectful despite himself. Patterson had 300 fighters. We had 3,000 soldiers in the landing force. Our troops had advanced armor and energy weapons. Her people had mining equipment and chemical explosives. By every military calculation, we should have conquered Mars in 3 days. The display showed the Corvani landing sites around the major human settlements. The cities appeared abandoned, with no signs of resistance. Our first landing was unopposed, Zekthara continued. The human settlements seemed empty. We found evidence of hasty evacuation, food still on tables, equipment running, but no humans. Commander Zekvolium reported that the colonists had fled underground when they saw our ships approaching. A cadet asked, were the humans hiding in fear? Zekthara's mandibles clicked in what might have been bitter amusement. They were hiding, but not in fear. They were preparing. Patterson had spent months before our arrival moving her people into the deep cave systems. She had turned the entire underground network into a fortress. The hologram changed to show a cross-section of Mars beneath the surface. A maze of tunnels and chambers stretched for hundreds of kilometers. The complexity was staggering. Mars has low gravity and thin atmosphere, the veteran explained. These conditions are difficult for Corvani physiology, but humans adapted to them perfectly. They could jump incredible distances in the low gravity. They needed less oxygen than we did. They could move through spaces too small for our soldiers. Zekthara walked closer to the display. On the second day of occupation, Patterson's forces attacked. Sergeant Rick Thompson led the first raid against our main base. He emerged from a tunnel we did not know existed, destroyed 2 of our vehicles, and vanished underground before we could respond. The veteran paused, his expression growing troubled. Thompson was alone. 1 human against 40 Corvani soldiers. He should have been killed instantly. Instead, he used the cave system like it was his personal weapon. He would appear, attack, and disappear. Our soldiers could not follow him through the narrow passages. One of the cadets looked confused. How could 1 human defeat 40 soldiers? He did not defeat them, Zekthara replied. He terrorized them. Thompson knew every tunnel entrance and exit. He could appear anywhere at any time. Our soldiers became afraid to leave their vehicles. They jumped at every sound. They fired their weapons at shadows. The displays showed the underground tunnel network in more detail. Passages connected every part of the human settlements, creating countless opportunities for ambush. Patterson's strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. The veteran continued. She did not try to fight our army directly. Instead, she made our soldiers afraid to be soldiers. Every patrol that entered the tunnels was attacked. Every supply convoy was ambushed. Every communications post was sabotaged. Zekthara activated a recording from the Mars campaign. The sound of human laughter echoed through what appeared to be empty caves. That sound haunted our soldiers. He said quietly, human laughter in the darkness. It meant Patterson's fighters were nearby. It meant another attack was coming. Our troops began to refuse underground patrol duties. They said the caves were full of ghosts. A cadet asked, why did the humans laugh during battle? The veteran considered the question. I believe they laughed because they were winning, not the war, but each individual fight. Every time they ambushed our patrols, they proved that our superior technology meant nothing in their environment. They were teaching us that courage matters more than equipment. The hologram showed a specific tunnel system where one of the largest battles occurred. Thompson held this position for 3 days while badly wounded. He had fallen during a raid and broken his leg. Instead of retreating, he decided to make his last stand in a narrow passage that led to civilian shelters. Zektara's voice grew quieter. 40 Corvani soldiers tried to pass through that tunnel. Thompson had improvised explosives from mining charges. He had positioned rocks to create cover. He had prepared for days to fight in that exact location. The display showed the tunnel from multiple angles. It was barely wide enough for 2 Corvani soldiers to walk side by side. The ceiling was low. The walls were rough rock. For 3 days, Thompson held that passage alone. The veteran continued. He could not walk because of his broken leg. He had limited food and water, but he would not surrender. Every time our soldiers tried to advance, he triggered explosions or fired from hidden positions. One of the cadets spoke up. Could the soldiers not simply wait for him to run out of supplies? They tried, Zektara replied. But Thompson was not trying to survive. He was trying to buy time for other humans to escape through different tunnels. He knew he would die. He chose to make his death count for something. The veteran deactivated the tunnel display and turned to face the cadets directly. On the 3rd day, Thompson ran out of explosives. He had 1 chemical projectile weapon and perhaps 20 rounds of ammunition. 40 Corvani soldiers in full battle armor were advancing toward his position. The room was completely silent. The cadets waited to hear what happened next. Thompson began to sing. Zektara said simply, "A human battle song." Our soldiers could hear his voice echoing through the tunnels as they approached. He was wounded, alone, and facing certain death, and he was singing. The veteran walked to the window and looked out at the peaceful city below. The song was about humans who died fighting for their homes, about soldiers who chose death before surrender, about people who would rather die free than live as slaves. He turned back to the cadets. When our soldiers finally reached Thompson's position, they found him dead behind his improvised barricade. But he had died fighting. His weapon was empty. His explosives were gone. But he had killed 12 Corvani soldiers and wounded 8 more. A cadet asked, "What happened to the other humans in the shelters?" "They escaped," Zektara replied. Thompson's sacrifice gave them time to reach deeper tunnels that connected to other parts of the cave system. Patterson moved them to safety while our soldiers were focused on 1 determined human with a broken leg. The veteran reactivated the Mars display, showing the full scope of the underground network. The battle for Mars lasted 7 months. 7 months of tunnel fighting, ambushes, and psychological warfare. We had superior numbers and technology. The humans had superior knowledge of their environment and unlimited determination. Zektara's voice grew bitter. Patterson's forces never tried to destroy our entire army. They simply made it impossible for us to control Mars. Every tunnel we cleared was reoccupied within days. Every position we fortified was bypassed through passages we did not know existed. He manipulated the display to show Corvani positions. Throughout the campaign, our soldiers became afraid to sleep. They knew humans were moving through tunnels beneath their feet. They heard laughter and voices in languages they could not understand. They found messages written on walls in the darkness. A cadet asked, "What did the messages say?" "Welcome to Mars," Zektara replied. That was Patterson's favorite message. She would have her fighters write it near every Corvani position. It reminded our soldiers that they were visitors on a human world, that humans belonged in the caves and tunnels, that we were the invaders. The veteran deactivated the display and returned to the center of the room. After 7 months, Fleet Admiral Voxstar ordered withdrawal from Mars. We had accomplished nothing. We controlled no territory. We had gained no resources. We had lost hundreds of soldiers to an enemy. We could barely see. He looked directly at each cadet. But the worst part was not the military failure. The worst part was what Mars taught us about human psychology. Patterson's fighters were not professional soldiers. They were miners, engineers, and colonists. Ordinary humans who became warriors when their home was threatened. Zektara entered the classroom with slower steps than usual. The cadets noticed that their instructor looked older today, as if the memories he was about to share were more difficult than the previous ones. He stood at the front of the room for a long moment before speaking. "Today I will tell you about Luna," he said quietly. "Earth's moon, the place where we learned that humans planned for wars decades before they happened, where we discovered that human paranoia can be a military advantage." The veteran activated the wall display, showing a gray cratered world orbiting the blue planet Earth. Luna looked barren and lifeless from space, but the surface was dotted with human settlements and mining operations. After the disaster on Mars, Fleet Admiral Voxstar needed a victory, Zektara continued. Luna seemed perfect for this purpose. It had no atmosphere to help human defenders, no caves like Mars, no places to hide, just open surface with human bases scattered across it. He manipulated the display to show the Corvani fleet approaching Luna. The human settlements appeared lightly defended, with only a few weapons platforms visible on the surface. "Colonel Ben Turner commanded Luna's defenses," the veteran said. "Our intelligence reported that Turner was an engineer, not a combat soldier. He had spent 20 years building human settlements on Luna. We thought he would be easy to defeat." One of the cadets raised his hand. "Sir, why did the fleet choose Luna instead of attacking Earth directly?" Zektara's mandibles clicked together. "Because Luna was supposed to be our forward base. The moon would give us a staging area for the invasion of Earth. From Luna, we could bombard Earth's surface and land troops without fighting through their orbital defenses." The display showed the strategic importance of Luna's position. From the moon, the Corvani fleet could control all approaches to Earth. Turner had other plans, the veteran continued. For 30 years, he had been preparing Luna for exactly this kind of invasion. But we did not know that yet. We thought Luna's defenses were whatever we could see on the surface. The hologram changed to show a cross-section of Luna. Unlike Mars, which had natural caves, Luna appeared to be solid rock beneath the surface bases. "Our first landing was successful," Zektara said. "We established a base near the largest human settlement. Turner's forces did not resist the landing. They seemed to be withdrawing deeper into their facilities. We thought they were preparing to surrender." The veteran's expression grew darker. Turner was not withdrawing, he was drawing us in. For 3 decades, he had been hollowing out Luna's interior. Not for mining, but for defense. He had built a fortress inside the moon itself. The display revealed the shocking truth. Beneath Luna's surface was a vast network of tunnels, chambers, and facilities. The construction was far more extensive than anything on Mars. "How long had Turner been planning this?" asked a cadet. "Since before the Corvani Empire had even discovered humanity," Zektara replied. "Turner believed that someday someone would try to invade Earth. He did not know who or when, but he was certain it would happen, so he prepared." The veteran walked closer to the display. Turner's preparations were not random. He had studied every possible invasion route to Earth. He had calculated the most likely strategies an alien fleet would use. Luna was the obvious choice for a forward base, so Turner made it a trap. The hologram showed the incredible complexity of Luna's hidden defenses. Weapons platforms were concealed throughout the interior. Life support systems were built to last for years. Supply depots were hidden in chambers that could only be reached through narrow passages. Major Lisa Campbell led the first raids against our positions, Zektara continued. Campbell was a former Earth military officer who had volunteered for Luna defense duty. She knew every tunnel, every chamber, every hidden passage in Turner's fortress. The display showed Campbell's forces moving through the lunar interior like water flowing through pipes. They could appear anywhere, strike quickly, and vanish before retaliation was possible. Campbell's raiders were different from Patterson's fighters on Mars, the veteran explained. Patterson's people were miners and engineers who became warriors. Campbell's people were trained soldiers who had spent years learning to fight in Luna's unique environment. One of the cadets asked, "What made fighting on Luna different from Mars?" Zektara considered the question. "Luna has no atmosphere and low gravity. Humans had to wear environmental suits and move carefully to avoid damaging their life support. But they had turned these disadvantages into advantages. They could leap incredible distances in the low gravity. They could move silently. In the vacuum, they could hide in shadows that lasted for weeks. The veteran activated a recording from the lunar campaign. Instead of human laughter like on Mars, there was only eerie silence broken by the sound of Corvani communications. Campbell's forces fought in complete silence. He said, "They used hand signals and light codes instead of radio communications. Our listening posts could not detect them. Our sensors could not track them. They moved like ghosts through the lunar night." The display showed a specific battle where Campbell's forces had ambushed a Corvani patrol. The human soldiers appeared from hidden positions, destroyed 3 vehicles, and disappeared without making a sound. But Campbell was only the beginning of our problems, Zectora continued. Turner had prepared Luna for a siege that could last for years. He had food, water, weapons, and ammunition hidden throughout the moon's interior. He had backup systems. For every critical facility, the veteran's voice grew more troubled. Turner had also prepared for the worst possible outcome. He had rigged Luna's entire defensive network with nuclear explosives. If the fortress fell, he could destroy the entire moon rather than let it become a Corvani base. A cadet looked shocked. He would destroy his own people. Turner believed that losing Luna would mean losing Earth, Zectora replied. He was willing to sacrifice everything to prevent that. This was not just military strategy. This was the thinking of a species that would rather die than be conquered. The display showed the nuclear charges placed throughout Luna's interior. There were enough explosives to crack the moon in half. The siege lasted 6 months. The veteran continued. 6 months of fighting against an enemy we could not see, in an environment we did not understand, for control of facilities we could not locate. Campbell's forces struck at our supply lines, our communications, and our morale. Zectora walked to the center of the room. But the worst part was not the military situation. The worst part was realizing that Turner had been preparing for our invasion since before we knew humans existed. He had spent decades assuming that someday aliens would come to conquer Earth. The veteran's expression was grim. Human paranoia had become human wisdom. Turner's belief that invasion was inevitable had led him to create defenses that were perfectly suited to stop us. He had guessed our strategies and prepared counters for them. One of the cadets asked, "How did the siege end?" Zectora was quiet. For a long moment, Commander Paul Rodriguez ended it. Rodriguez was Turner's second-in-command, a former Earth naval officer. When it became clear that our forces were close to breaking through Luna's outer defenses, Rodriguez made a decision that still haunts me. The display showed Rodriguez's final position in Luna's core facility. He was surrounded by Corvani soldiers, who had finally penetrated the fortress. Rodriguez had the codes to detonate Luna's nuclear charges, the veteran continued. He could have destroyed the entire moon and everyone on it. Instead, he chose a different option. He triggered a controlled explosion that destroyed only the sections of the fortress that contained Corvani forces. The hologram showed the explosion from inside Luna. Carefully placed charges collapsed tunnels and chambers, sealing off the areas where Corvani soldiers were located. Rodriguez killed himself and 300 human defenders to eliminate 800 Corvani soldiers, Zectora said quietly. But he did not destroy Luna. He preserved the moon for future human use while eliminating the immediate threat. A cadet asked, "Why did Rodriguez not destroy the entire moon?" "Because he understood Turner's real strategy," the veteran replied. Luna was not just a fortress. It was a message. Turner was showing us that humans could defend any position, no matter how difficult. Rodriguez wanted to make sure that message survived. The display showed the aftermath of Rodriguez's sacrifice. The surviving Corvani forces were trapped in sealed sections of the fortress, unable to escape or communicate with their fleet. The lunar fortress taught us that human military planning operates on timescales we had never imagined. Zectora continued. Turner had been preparing for war for 30 years. He had anticipated our strategies and prepared counters for them. He had built defenses that could survive indefinitely. The veteran deactivated the display and turned to face the cadets. But Luna also taught us something else about human psychology. Rodriguez's sacrifice was not desperate or emotional. It was calculated. He had weighed the costs and benefits and chosen the option that served human interests best. He walked to the window and looked out at the Corvani city. After Luna, Fleet Admiral Voxstar realized that conquering the human system would require destroying it completely. There could be no occupation, no subjugation, no incorporation into the Empire. Zekthera stood before his cadets with the weight of terrible memories clearly visible on his scarred face. Today he would speak of Earth itself, the human homeworld, where the Corvani Empire learned the true meaning of desperation and determination. Today, I will tell you about the assault on Earth, he began slowly. The day Fleet Admiral Voxstar committed every remaining ship to destroy the human homeworld. The day we learned that an entire planet could become a weapon. The wall display activated, showing Earth in all its blue and green beauty. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over the continents and oceans. After the failures at Mars and Luna, Voxstar was desperate. Zekthera continued. The Empire demanded results. The losses had been enormous. Our only choice was total victory or complete defeat. So, Voxstar brought every ship, every soldier, every weapon we had. The display showed the massive Corvani fleet approaching. Earth, hundreds of warships filled the space around the human homeworld. It was the largest invasion force the Empire had ever assembled. General Susan Clark commanded Earth's planetary defense. The veteran said, Clark had been preparing for this moment since the war began. She knew that everything would depend on the defense of Earth. If the planet fell, humanity would be extinct. One of the cadets asked, how many human ships did Clark have? Zekthera's mandibles clicked together grimly. That was the wrong question. We were thinking like traditional military strategists. We counted ships and weapons and soldiers. Clark was thinking like a human. She had turned the entire planet into her weapon. The hologram zoomed in on Earth's surface, revealing cities that looked normal from a distance, but showed strange modifications upon closer inspection. Every human city had been modified for war, the veteran explained. Buildings that looked like civilian structures were actually weapon platforms. Parks and gardens hid missile systems. Even schools and hospitals had been converted into military facilities. The display showed cross-sections of human cities. Beneath every major population center was a network of tunnels, bunkers, and supply depots that made Luna's fortress look simple by comparison. But Clark's real weapon was not technology, Zekthera continued. It was the human population itself. Every civilian on Earth had been trained for war. Children as young as 10 years old served as spotters and messengers. Elderly humans operated automated defense systems. A cadet looked confused. The humans used children in combat. Not in direct combat, the veteran replied, but in support roles that were equally dangerous. Human children would climb into spaces too small for adults to repair damaged equipment. Elderly humans would operate weapon systems from bunkers, knowing they would not survive if the positions were overrun. The display showed the orbital approach to Earth. What appeared to be empty space was actually filled with hidden mines, automated weapons platforms, and disguised human vessels. Captain Doug Peterson commanded the most terrifying part of Earth's defense, Zekthera said quietly. Peterson led what appeared to be civilian evacuation ships fleeing from Earth as our fleet approached. Our sensors showed cargo vessels, passengers, transports, and mining ships trying to escape the battle. The veteran's voice grew darker. Peterson's ships were not evacuating. They were attacking. Every civilian vessel had been converted into a weapon. Passenger ships carried fusion bombs. Cargo vessels were packed with explosives. Mining ships had been turned into guided missiles. The hologram showed Peterson's fleet moving toward the Corvani invasion force. The human ships broadcasted distress signals and requests for safe passage, appearing to be helpless refugees. Peterson had recruited volunteers from across human space. Zekthera continued, pilots who knew they would not survive the mission, engineers who had converted their own ships into weapons, families who chose to die together rather than live under alien rule. One of the cadets asked, how many volunteers did Peterson have? 3,000 ships, the veteran replied. 3,000 human vessels crewed by people who had accepted certain death to damage our fleet. Peterson was not trying to win a naval battle. He was conducting the largest suicide attack in recorded galactic history. The display showed the moment when Peterson's fleet revealed its true nature. Civilian ships suddenly accelerated toward Corvani vessels, their hulls splitting open to reveal weapons and explosives. The psychological impact was devastating, Zekthera said. Our gunners hesitated to fire on ships broadcasting civilian distress calls. By the time we realized the truth, Peterson's vessels were among our formations. They detonated themselves against our hulls. The veteran walked closer to the display, his expression haunted. Peterson's ship was the last to attack. He had coordinated the entire assault while flying directly toward our command vessel. His final transmission was a message to Admiral Voxstar. A cadet asked, "What did Peterson say?" "Welcome to Earth," Zekdara replied simply. The same message Patterson had used on Mars. Peterson was telling us that we were not conquerors. We were visitors who had overstayed our welcome. The hologram showed the aftermath of Peterson's attack. Dozens of Corvani ships were damaged or destroyed. The invasion fleet was scattered and demoralized. But Peterson's sacrifice was only the beginning, the veteran continued. Admiral Alex Johnson, humanity's supreme commander, contacted our fleet after the suicide attack. Johnson's message was simple and terrifying. Zekdara activated a recording of Johnson's transmission. The human commander's voice was calm and steady as he spoke. "This is Admiral Johnson of Earth Defense Command. You have seen what our volunteers can accomplish. Now you will see what our professionals can do. Earth will fight until every human is dead. We will not surrender. We will not negotiate. You may destroy our planet, but you will never conquer it." The veteran deactivated the recording and turned to face the cadets. Johnson was not bluffing. Earth's entire population had been mobilized for total war. Every human settlement had weapons. Every human citizen was a potential combatant. The planet had become a single, massive military unit. The display showed Earth's defensive systems activating as the Corvani fleet moved closer. Weather control systems began generating storms over the invasion routes. Orbital platforms emerged from hidden positions. The planet's magnetic field was manipulated to interfere with Corvani electronics. General Clark had weaponized Earth's environment, Zekdara explained. She could create hurricanes where she needed them. She could generate electromagnetic pulses that disabled our equipment. She could even trigger earthquakes in areas where our forces might land. One of the cadets asked, "How did the humans control their own planet's weather?" "Decades of preparation," the veteran replied. Just like Turner on Luna, Clark had been modifying Earth's systems for 30 years. She had built weather control stations, electromagnetic generators, and seismic manipulation devices all over the planet. The hologram showed the scope of Earth's modifications. Every continent had been turned into a fortress. Every ocean contained hidden weapon platforms. Even the planet's atmosphere had been modified to interfere with alien sensors. The orbital battle lasted 3 days, Zekdara continued. 3 days of fighting against an enemy that seemed to appear from everywhere at once. Human ships would emerge from behind asteroids, attack our formations, and disappear into the planet's magnetic field. The veteran's voice grew quieter, but the most terrifying moment came when Admiral Johnson made his final offer. He contacted Fleet Admiral Voxstar directly and gave him one last chance to withdraw peacefully. The display showed the two fleet commanders facing each other across the void. Johnson appeared calm and confident despite being vastly outnumbered. Johnson told Voxstar that Earth had enough nuclear weapons to crack the planet in half. Zekdara said, "If the Corvani fleet continued its attack, humanity would destroy their own homeworld rather than let it be conquered." Johnson was prepared to commit species suicide to deny us victory. A cadet looked shocked. Would Johnson really have destroyed Earth? Yes, the veteran replied without hesitation. Johnson was not making a threat. He was stating a fact. Humans would rather cease to exist than live as slaves. This was not emotional desperation. This was calculated policy. The hologram showed Earth's nuclear arsenal. Thousands of weapons were positioned throughout the planet, enough to destroy all life on the surface and make the world uninhabitable. For centuries, at that moment, Fleet Admiral Voxstar realized the truth. Zekdara continued. There was no way to conquer humanity. Even if we destroyed their fleets and occupied their worlds, they would continue fighting. Even if we killed 90% of their population, the survivors would plot revenge. The veteran walked to the window and looked out at the peaceful Corvani city. Voxstar also realized that attempting to exterminate humanity would cost the Empire everything. Even if we succeeded, the losses would be so enormous that other species would rise up against us. He turned back to the cadets. So Voxstar made the only rational decision possible. He ordered the fleet to withdraw from human space. The Sol campaign was officially ended. The Corvani Empire's first military defeat in 3 centuries was complete. The displays showed the Corvani fleet retreating from Earth's vicinity. Zectora entered the classroom for the final time in this series of lectures. His 3 eyes showed the exhaustion of someone who had relived the worst memories of his military career. The cadets sensed this would be the most important lesson of all. Today I will tell you about the aftermath. He began quietly. About what happened after Fleet Admiral Voxstar ordered the withdrawal from human space. About why ending the war was not the end of our problems with humanity. The wall display showed the current map of known space. Human territory had expanded dramatically since the war's end 15 cycles ago. What had once been a single star system was now a growing sphere of human influence. General Kate Williams commanded the human forces that pursued our retreating fleet. Zectora continued. Williams had been General Clark's second-in-command during the Earth defense. She understood that the war's end was actually humanity's opportunity to expand. The veteran manipulated the display to show the withdrawal routes from human space. Red markers indicated where human forces had attacked retreating Corvani ships. Williams did not allow us to withdraw peacefully. He said her pursuit fleets harassed our damaged ships for months. She captured Corvani technology, interrogated prisoners, and studied our military capabilities. Williams was learning how to fight us in our own territory. One of the cadets raised his hand. Sir, why did Williams continue attacking after the war was over? Zectora's mandibles clicked grimly. Because Williams understood something that took us years to realize. The Sol campaign had not been a war between the Corvani Empire and humanity. It had been humanity's introduction to galactic warfare. Williams was using our withdrawal to prepare for the next conflict. The display showed human expansion in the years following the war. New colonies appeared in star systems near the original battle zones. Human exploration fleets moved deeper into previously unexplored space. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Garcia led the most aggressive human expansion efforts. The veteran continued. Garcia commanded deep space raiding fleets that struck at supply lines and border outposts. His forces were not defending human territory, they were actively testing our defenses. The hologram showed Garcia's raid patterns. Human ships would appear at the edge of Corvani space, attack isolated installations, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Garcia's raids were not random, Zectora explained. He was mapping our defensive positions, identifying weak points, and studying how quickly we could respond to threats. Garcia was conducting intelligence-gathering operations disguised as piracy. A cadet asked, were Garcia's forces large enough to threaten Corvani territory? Not individually, the veteran replied, but Garcia was not trying to conquer Corvani worlds. He was proving that human forces could strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. He was demonstrating that humanity had become a galactic military power. The display showed the technological advancement of human forces since the war. Their ships were now equipped with shields and weapons that rivaled Corvani technology. Their tactics had evolved to incorporate lessons learned from fighting the Empire. Captain Helen Foster commanded human exploration fleets that pushed even deeper into unknown space. Zectora continued, Foster's mission was not military conquest. She was searching for new resources, new allies, and new technologies that could strengthen humanity's position. The veteran's voice grew more troubled. Foster's explorations revealed something that terrified the Corvani High Command. Humanity was not satisfied with controlling their local region of space. They were actively seeking to become a galactic superpower. The hologram showed Foster's exploration routes. Human ships had traveled farther from their homeworld in 15 cycles than most species managed in centuries. Foster's expeditions made contact with dozens of previously unknown species, Zectora said. But instead of conquering these species, like the Empire would have done, humans offered them trade agreements, defensive pacts, and technological exchanges. One of the cadets looked confused. Why did humans not conquer weaker species? Because humans learned from our mistakes, the veteran replied. They saw how the Empire's conquests created resentment and rebellion. Foster's approach was to build alliances instead of empires. Humans were creating a coalition of species opposed to Corvani expansion. The display showed the growing network of human allies. Species that had been targets for future Corvani conquest were now under human protection. The most disturbing development was human technological advancement, Zektora continued. During the Sol campaign, human technology was centuries behind ours. 15 cycles later, they had not only caught up, but were developing innovations we had never imagined. The veteran activated recordings of recent human military exercises. Their ships moved with precision that exceeded Corvani capabilities. Their weapons systems showed accuracy and power that rivaled the Empire's best equipment. Humans had reverse-engineered captured Corvani technology and improved upon it, he explained. But they had also developed completely new approaches to warfare that we did not understand. They were thinking about military problems in ways that had never occurred to us. The hologram showed a specific example. Human ships using gravitational manipulation to change course in ways that seemed impossible according to known physics. Human scientists had been studying our technology for 15 cycles, Zektora said. They understood our capabilities better than we understood theirs. They had prepared counters for every weapon and tactic in the Corvani military handbook. A cadet asked, "How powerful are human forces now compared to the Empire?" The veteran was quiet for a long moment. Human space now controls more territory than the outer provinces of the Corvani Empire. Their fleets are smaller than ours, but their technology is superior. Their allies provide resources in strategic depth that we cannot match. The display showed a strategic analysis of current military capabilities. The comparison was not favorable to the Empire. But the most significant change is not military, Zektora continued. It is psychological. Humanity has become the symbol of successful resistance to the Empire. Other species look to humans as proof that the Corvani Empire can be defeated. The veteran walked to the center of the room. Commander Bill Harrison now leads human diplomatic missions to species throughout the galaxy. Harrison offers military assistance to any world threatened by the Empire. He is building a formal alliance against us. The hologram showed the extent of anti-Corvani sentiment in known space. Species that had once feared the Empire now actively opposed it with human support. Harrison's diplomacy is backed by human military power, Zektora explained. Species know that allying with humanity means protection from Corvani conquest. Harrison is offering what the Empire never could, partnership instead of domination. One of the cadets asked, "What does this mean for the future of the Empire?" Zekvera's expression grew grim. It means that the Sol campaign was not the end of human expansion. It was the beginning. Every cycle that passes, humanity becomes stronger, while the Empire becomes more isolated. The display showed projected scenarios for the next 50 cycles. In every simulation, human influence continued to grow, while Corvani power declined. Admiral Jennifer Walsh now commands the largest human fleet ever assembled. The veteran continued. Walsh's forces patrol the borders of human space, but they are not defensive patrols. They are preparing for offensive operations against the Empire. The hologram showed Walsh's fleet formations. The ships were arranged for attack, not defense. The humans were no longer thinking about protecting their territory. They were planning to expand it. The Corvani High Command now faces a choice, Zektora said quietly. We can attempt another war against humanity, knowing that they are now stronger than they were during the Sol campaign. Or we can accept that the galaxy has changed permanently. He looked directly at each cadet. But there is a third possibility that terrifies the High Command more than either war or peace. Humanity might decide that the Corvani Empire itself is a threat that must be eliminated. The veteran walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Colonel Sarah Mitchell leads human intelligence operations throughout Corvani space. Mitchell's agents have infiltrated our military, our government, and our commercial operations. They know our capabilities and our weaknesses better than we do. A cadet asked quietly, "Are humans planning to invade the Empire?" Unknown, Zekthora replied, but they are certainly preparing for that possibility. Human forces conduct regular exercises simulating attacks on Corvani worlds. They have developed tactics specifically designed to counter our defensive strategies. The display showed human military exercises. The scenarios were unmistakably focused on attacking heavily defended Corvani positions. The most troubling aspect is that humans are patient, the veteran continued. They are not rushing into another war. They are building their strength, expanding their alliances, and waiting for the right moment to act. He turned back to the cadets. Humanity has learned that time favors them. Every cycle they grow stronger while we grow weaker. Every new alliance they form reduces our influence. Every technological advancement gives them greater advantages. The veteran deactivated the display and faced the class directly.